What is up, everybody? Chris Hendrickson here, and I came across this really interesting article. It was actually passed on to me by my wife, who was really fascinated in it, and I found it quite fascinating too. I'd never really thought about this issue that I'm about to talk about like this. If you haven't already, please be sure to like this page, follow, and into the article now. So, this article is titled, "It Could Be the Age of the Chicken, Geologically." With 65 billion chickens consumed each year, the signature fossil of the modern epoch may be the leftovers. All right, and here it starts off showing a picture of a modern broiler farm. As you can see, there are so many chickens in here packed into a shed. They've got, rows where their food comes out, rows where their water comes out, minimal ventilation, etc. And this article is written by James Gorman and published in the New York Times right here. And James writes, it's one thing to eat chicken every day. It's something else to have that on your permanent record, as in the geological record. The remnants of our time that archaeologists or aliens of the future will sift through to determine who we were and how we shaped our world. But a group of scientists argue in a new essay published Wednesday in the journal Royal Society Open Science that this is exactly how our time on Earth will be marked, by leftover chicken bones. All right, we live in the age of the chicken. So there are about 23 billion chickens on Earth at any given time, at least 10 times more than any other bird, 40 times more than the number of sparrows. And this is a global estimate, but in the United States, there are about 9 billion chickens being raised and killed for food each year. The second most numerous bird on the planet, at an estimated population of 1.5 billion, is a small creature called the red-billed culea. Pardon me, let me know how to properly pronounce that in the comments. It's sometimes known in its home of sub-Saharan Africa as a feathered locust. The combined mass of those 23 billion chickens is greater than that of all the other birds on Earth. All right, that's a massive amount of birds, 23 billion. That's like more than double of the human population on this planet. But, said Carrie Bennett, an honorary fellow at the University of, Leicester, let me know how to pronounce that too, and one of the authors of the essay, it's not only the mind-boggling numbers of chickens that will tell a tale of our times, but their shape, genes, and chemistry. So scrolling down, she says that we have changed the actual biology of the chickens. Chickens seem to have been domesticated about 8,000 years ago and gradually bred to be larger and meatier than their jungle fowl ancestors. And I actually traveled to Hawaii recently, where I actually got to see chickens in the wild, and they're pretty skinny. They're running around, jumping up in trees, hanging out with their families and stuff. But it wasn't until production of broilers ramped up in the 1950s and factory farming practices. I had a little bit of a word slip there because I work in farm animal protection. I'm so used to saying factory farming. And farming practices changed that the bird was transformed. The modern broiler chicken, with an average life until slaughter of a scant 5 to 9 weeks by various estimate, has 5 times the mass of its ancestors. So I'm going to stop right there. 5 to 9 weeks. All right, that's like a baby chicken that is going off to slaughter, and this baby chicken weighs 5 times more than its ancestors. Like, imagine if we had babies that were on average, like human babies. If we grew babies that were 5 times, it would be absolutely horrendous. Like, it would be downright cruel and probably a human rights violation. But who knows? So it has a genetic mutation that makes it eat insatiably so that it gains weight rapidly. And one interesting thing to note is in this article, they constantly refer to chicken as it. But as we know, chickens are individuals. They have, he, she, whatever. So I'm just going to read with that terminology because that's what the article is. It is subject to numerous bone ailments because it has been bred to grow so quickly. Because of its diet, heavy on grains and low on backyard seeds and bugs, its bones have a distinct chemical signature. All right, so here's a photo of chicks recently separated from the eggs they hatched from at a Purdue chicken farm in Candor, North Carolina. And as you can see, the chickens are on a conveyor belt. It's a really weird Matrix style. For any of you who've seen the Matrix, birthing humans in little pods. It's a really weird growth process. To have your first moments of life, you're on a conveyor belt being separated. It's pretty weird. So, the broiler chicken is almost completely dependent on and designed for an industrial system of meat production. It can only live supported by human technology. Eggs are artificially incubated, and chicks grow in controlled climate sheds of up to 50,000 chickens, the scientists write. So, this, is really true. Like, they would not exist in the wild in their form now. They're specifically designed for meat production. Wrong or right, it's just wild to think that they've grown birds to be 5 times as large, and then they're in a shed with 50,000 other chickens. It's such an interesting husbandry practice. So the chickens are transported to slaughterhouses at no older than 9 weeks. But it puts here, broilers at some farm animal sanctuaries live 4 years or more. And having gone to farm animal sanctuaries and seen chickens, year after year, you can definitely attest to that. They live really natural, normal lives. And these broilers are not the ones coming from these factory farming facilities. They're generally other types of broilers. The ones who come from these facilities often have pretty horrendous lives, even at a farm sanctuary, because they just want to eat all the time and it hurts to walk around. Stress on their bodies, stress on their organs, their legs. It's pretty miserable life if you're happen to be a broiler chicken. So going down here, there is of course a question about how well all the leftover chicken bones from the 65 billion or so chickens consumed each year will be preserved in the fossil record. Bird bones don't fossilize well, but many chicken bones go to landfills where they become mummified as much as fossilized. And there are so many bones. And now, just to briefly go over the line about the fossil record, I found this cool chart right here. It's from a All You Need Is Biology WordPress site. So thank you so much to whoever put this together. So there's a photo right here, picture Ray Troll. It shows the stratigraphic timeline. So just past the Holocene era, we're in the area that we are in right now. I don't know what that era is called. But if you look down, you see like a mammoth bone right here. I don't recognize any of these other ones, but if you go past the Paleocene era into the Cretaceous, which was 65.5 million years ago to 145.5 million years ago, you start to recognize some dinosaurs. And actually, I have some fossils right here. So these are ammonite fossils. You can kind of see right here. So this is a 65 million year old fossil, and it's weird to think like someone in however much time might be holding up a chicken bone, like, oh, this was a broiler chicken bone. That'd be a really weird thing to think about. But yeah, so as you go through the Jurassic period right here, 145 million years ago, like Jurassic Park style, you got the big T-Rex bone right there. I don't see any mosquitoes preserved in amber in this chart. But then going down, getting to 542 million years ago, you see the Cambrian era, which if you've heard of like the Cambrian explosion, it's this massive time on Earth where there was a ton of marine life. They see like the first fossil records ever showing up. And it was just a spawn of wildlife at the bottom of the ocean. Mostly marine invertebrates, So there's a little overview of, the fossil record, where we came from, where we're at now. And then going back into the article, the big issue, of course, is what all these chicken bones say about us. All right. The essay did not take a position on this question, leaving it up to the reader. Quote, some people would say this is an amazing technological innovation, Dr. Bennett says. Indeed, Tom Super, a spokesperson for the National Chicken Council, an industry group, said that the production of chickens in the U.S., at least, is a great success. Quote, in terms of efficiency, the welfare of the birds, and responsibly producing more meat with fewer resources. All right, and if we scroll up, it's hard to agree with that, at least personally for me. When I see chickens crammed in a warehouse, most of them are laying down because they can't support the weight of their own bodies. It's hard for me to believe that this is a high welfare situation. When we think high welfare, we think like a chicken being raised in a field where they have access to like light, natural light, not artificial light, as you see in the photo. They get to run around, and I think most people would agree that the ideal welfare is for animal product consumption would be like they live a happy, good life, and then they have one bad day at the end. All right, but for these chickens, they literally have only bad days. They're immediately right from they're born. They can't stop eating. They're bred to grow extremely large. They suffer from organ failure, crippling leg deformities. They can barely support their weight of their own body because they're 5 times the size that they used to be. They're 5 times the mass, but like their infrastructure, the bones and stuff, don't grow. They're not bred to have high, sturdy bones to support all that weight. They're bred for meat production. So, I mean, I'm going to disagree with the fact that this is, responsible or a high welfare. And on the other side of that, there's Lori Gruen, a philosophy professor at Wesleyan University, an advocate for animal welfare, said that it was, quote, hard to see this human-caused transmogrification that purposely disables these birds from birth as something to be proud of. And I actually had to Google transmogrification because I didn't know what that was when I read that. But effectively, transmogrification is to change or alter greatly and often with grotesque or humorous effect. All right, and I would certainly agree that this transmogrification is quite grotesque. But let me know what you think. Comment below if you think this is responsible farming and proper welfare. I'd love to hear from you. If you agree with Lori that this is not something to be proud of, comment below. Let me hear it. Let's have a friendly discussion in the comments. And then lastly, it goes on to mention, of course, archaeologists of the future won't just find chicken bones. There will be plastics and concrete and other so-called technofossils. There will also be radiation signatures in the rocks from nuclear tests. All of these will be markers of what some scientists call the Anthropocene epoch, the age of humans. All right, but the single most identifiable and significant biological remnant, these scientists argue, the lasting sign of how we change the living world will be the broiler chicken in its numbers and strangeness. And here's a close-up of a broiler chicken right here. And, with all these concerns for chicken welfare and, seeing photos like this, there are many groups that are raising awareness about this and asking for better conditions for broiler chickens. There's a coalition of groups, and full disclosure, I do work for the Humane League, who is a part of this coalition. When I read the article, I, immediately thought about talking about the coalition and groups working on this, so take that for what it is. But they published this coalition published an incredible white paper called Why Improved Broiler Chicken Welfare is Essential. And groups like Animal Equality, Compassion in World Farming, Mercy for Animals, the Humane League, World Animal Protection, they put this really well done research paper that goes into the impact of the breed on walking ability, activity, perching, motivation, and ability. Because I highly doubt that these birds can do any perching with their size, which is a natural chicken behavior. Like I saw it in the chickens in Hawaii. They love being up in the trees. Chickens actually can sleep in trees at night. So this goes into welfare. Why improved welfare is essential for in regards to skin lesions, mortality, dead on arrival. Because right here, modern broiler chickens are predisposed to thermal stress, altered heat exchange capacity, and muscular pathologies, along with cardiovascular weakness. These abnormalities reduce their ability to withstand transport stress. So the birds die before they even reach the slaughterhouse because they are just too large for their own body. So I'm going to link this into the description of this, but I just want to take a moment to thank you again for making it this far in the video. If you enjoyed what you heard, if you enjoyed me going over this, please comment, let me know what you liked about it, let me know what you didn't like about it. I want to make these things better, make them more informative for you. If you really liked it, share it. If you didn't like it, share it. And go ahead and follow Hendrickson Media. We're going to be covering a ton of things like this. I just recently did a few videos about the Farm Bill. I'm going to keep you up to date about that, and we'll see if the House passes it pretty soon here. I'm going to keep up to date on all things animal welfare, and then straying into other topics as I basically feel like it. So if you're interested, definitely drop that follow, like the page, follow me on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter, Instagram. I'm going to see how it does, but my primary things are Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are.